everyone, and welcome back to Lucy's Corsetry. Sitting beside me is Katie Thomas from WKD. We're sitting in her London boutique right now, and I'm really excited to be here and to be able to interview you today. So thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and answer some questions.
Thank you.
So first of all, how did you become interested in retro fashion?
Well, I was a teen in the mid-80s, and 50s fashion was having a revival back then. And it was also the 25th anniversary of Marilyn Monroe's death, so there was a lot of information in the press and magazines about her, and I just found the whole era totally glamorous. And it all started from there.
Awesome. So how did you start the company, and why did you choose the name WKD did?
I chose the name WKD did because I was working for a company beforehand, and we were setting up a new shop, and I was coming up with names for the shop about the kind of products we were doing, and the owner said to me that it was not best to do that because then you're stuck to that product. And it was really, really good advice, because at that time there was companies like Stockings HQ, Silk Stockings, Tights Please, My Tights, all setting up, because of course we started with stockings, and if I had chosen a name like that, then I would have been stuck to that product. And it was WKD Did is the name of a book my grandmother gave me when I was little, and it's really hard to come up with a company name, but that's the one I chose.
So you said that you started with stockings, so how did you incorporate corsets into that, and how did your personal interest with corsets begin?
I first became interested in corsets in the mid-90s when I was working at fetish store Skin 2, which was actually located just up the road from where we are now. So it's all very local. And at that time you could only get corsets in fetish stores, and there were only a couple of brands making them. But I was captivated by the shape they gave you, and even though they're not as curvy as they are today, I just fell in love with them. And a few years after I started WKD Did, I'd done stockings, I started doing suspender belts and bras and gone into shapewear, and the next step was corsets.
So Katie, you've been in this industry for 15 years now, so how have you seen the industry change?
To begin with, we were very, very niche, and even back then I had one customer say to me, what are you going to do when the craze for vintage is over? And yes, I did think about it, but it's just got bigger and bigger, and it's become more and more mainstream. To begin with, we'd have girls coming to shows and laughing at our big knickers and our Madonna bras, and now the same girls are wearing them, so it's very exciting.
Yeah. What do you think of the latest waist training trend, and how do you think your corsets really fit into that whole industry, that movement?
Yeah, the new waist training trend is very interesting, and we've really seen the focus shift away from girdles and corselets to waist cinches, either power mesh or full-on corsets. Where we fit in, we're kind of in the middle, so we're the second tier of corsets. To begin with, you can now find quite cheap corsets on the market, which do the job quite well if you want to find out if you're interested in training or not, or how you get on with wearing a corset. And then after that, you've got the high-end made-to-measure corsets, and we're in the middle, so we kind of cover both areas.
So would you say that the quality of your corsets is suitable for daily wear then?
Yeah, I took a long time to say that our corsets were suitable for waist training, because coming from a fetish background, my idea of waist training would be wearing 23/7 a week, which means you just take it off to bath or wash. And now that focus has changed, whereas now people say if you wear a corset 8 hours a day, that's classed as waist training. And yes, our corsets are suitable for wearing 8 to 12 hours, 7 days a week.
It's interesting that you mentioned that your corsets are really in the middle. It's not quite the cheaper off-the-rack corsets, and it's not quite the very high-end custom corsets. It's somewhere in the higher end, ready-to-wear that's higher in both price point but also in quality. So was it a deliberate decision to place yourself in that little, filling that void in the industry?
It wasn't a deliberate decision. It was, I always wanted it to be vaguely affordable to someone like me, because I can remember looking at brands when I was younger, and there was no way I'd be able to ever afford them. And also it comes down to the factories. We don't put pressure on the prices of our factories. We pay a fair price. So that's the way it's evolved. That's the way it's turned out.
Mm-hmm. I remember earlier, before we started filming, you said that you had considered lowering the price point of your corsets, but you started looking at where to cut in terms of quality, and you weren't willing to make that sort of sacrifice, right?
Yeah, that's right. Was it 4 or 5 years ago now? They had a big influx of very affordable corsets come in, but the fit wasn't there and the quality wasn't there, and we were thinking whether we should do a more affordable line, but we really couldn't find anything that wants to compromise on, so we just stuck it out.
So you were the very first person I saw in the off-the-rack or ready-to-wear corset industry who really came out, and you showed pictures of where they were manufactured in India, and how the working conditions were. And I know that a lot of different companies, they allude to this, and they put the made in India or made in Pakistan tags in the corsets themselves, but they don't put a lot of focus on that sort of transparency. So can you comment on why you decided to be so transparent about it, and why did you decide not to make the corsets in England?
Well, when I started, I did look at factories in England for lingerie, because obviously we're just doing lingerie at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was so tiny, no one wanted to work with what Katie did. And now most of those factories have gone.
Okay.
And it took me a long time to find our factory in India, and again they were the only people who wanted to work with us, which is one of the reasons we ended up working together. So they've supported us from the beginning, and I'm actually very proud of the way that we work together. They've supported what Katie did unconditionally from the start, and everyone works very well as a team. They have a lot of job security, and I think the whole manufacturing overseas thing, people often see it as a bad thing, and they don't know the whole story. And I think it's very important to show that you can manufacture things overseas to a good quality level at a fair price, with the workers being paid fairly. It's not all bad.
Well, I admire you for that. I really do.
Yeah, it can be scary, because people now, they still say, oh, you manufacture in India and it's all sweatshops, and let me tell you, I've seen some factories in England which aren't a patch on the factories we work with in India. So
my last question for you is, when I first discovered what Katie did, I thought that it really catered to burlesque or pinup, but who would you say is your main clientele, and who do you love to sell to?
We don't really have one. I mean, to begin with, I come from a fetish background, but also a vintage background. We do World War II reenactments. Next week we're doing a vintage motor racing show. We do a lot of film work, but you've been here a couple of hours today, and you can see the kind of people we've got in. We had a lady buying knickers for hen nights who was working in the film industry. We had a trans person buying lingerie. We had an older lady, I hope she won't mind me describing her as an older lady, coming in. Then we had another person buying lingerie as a gift. It's a whole different mix. So we get customers from 18 to 80. We welcome anyone. I mean, the only thing they really all have in common is that they're addicted to glamour.
Yeah, as am I. So thank you so much for sitting down and answering my questions.
You're welcome.
And we will see you in the next video. Bye.